What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand to Table podcast. I'm your host, Henry Kaminski Jr., your go-to for branding and marketing for restaurants. And today, guys, I got a fun and exciting guest. This dude, I've been following him for a couple months now, and I took a shot. I said, you know what? I'm going to DM this guy on a random Sunday and see if he responds. He's a busy dude. And sure as shit, he responded right away. And he was like, dude, yeah, I'd come on the podcast. No problem. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mike McCarthy. You might know him as Large from Barstool Sports. What is going on, Large? What is shaking, dude?
You know what it is that when you say you reached out to me and I said yes, I find so often that when I answer DMs and stuff, people are like, oh, this is great. You answered DMs. And I think one of the reasons I do, my DMs for the most part are pretty positive, right?
Yeah,
so I don't know if there's a world exists where I grew up and somebody comes in and is like, hey, how you doing? I like your stuff. Where I'd be like, delete, you know, or just kind of ignore it. And then they also throw in a lot of kill yourself fatty type stuff, which I can kind of block or get off to the side. But for the most part, I'm having a great time with social media. So I'm happy to be here. You know, as far as what this podcast is about, and we spoke about it before, I don't know if I would have been a guy that made sense here before I started doing all the food content, even though I've always been a quote unquote foodie, which has turned into a curse word nowadays.
Yeah.
But now that I'm kind of in the thick of it, doing all these restaurant reviews and having all these people on the show, I think this makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot of restaurant owners that watch this show.
Okay, cool.
And I see a lot of other people that are in the industry that have been DMing me on the side going, you know, I love your content. I love what you're talking about. Because it's not just boring branding and marketing shit. Because let's face it, that's not the most sexiest stuff we could talk about. No. So when you bring in personalities like yourself, you bring in restaurateurs, you bring in chefs, kind of lightens the party a little bit, makes it a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
If you just had marketing execs in here,
just snooze fucking fest. Snooze fucking fest.
I would have said no.
So we talked about this, and when I was doing my research on you, I noticed that you've lived quite a few different lives until today.
Right.
I mean, so talk to me. You've had, you know, an interesting career pivot. I mean, you were a Wall Street guy for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Then you found yourself at Barstool Sports. So what version of you would be more surprised where you ended up?
You know, so I grew up in South Brooklyn.
Okay.
I was born in the Bronx, but grew up in South Brooklyn. And I'm the son of two immigrants. My dad is from a small island off the coast of Cork, Ireland, and my mom is from Dublin. We both came over here separately. My dad was 19 by himself. My mom was 15 with her family. So, like, growing up in Brooklyn, and I'm 54 years old. I was born in 1971. Like, my trajectory through my life, I kind of think about where I started, where I thought I was going to be, and where I am. And I'm trying to get this across to my kids. It's never what you think. I mean, unless you were destined to become a heart surgeon and you do the whole heart surgeon thing. But, you know, for a while there was a small chunk where I was an aggressive altar boy. I thought I was going to be a priest. Boy, did I not become a priest, you know. And then as I'm going through school, you have all these kind of things. I did very well in school. And then in college, I did pretty well. So I was going to become a lawyer. And I made a pretty good law school, a couple of them. I did well on my LSATs. And this is a big bragging thing for me so far.
Keep it going.
But I had the opportunity. I was working at a cubicle, Brooklyn Union Gas. My grandfather was retired from Brooklyn Union Gas after like 40 years. And he was, you know, more of a laboring type guy, as is everybody in my family. My dad's a local 40 iron worker, which is the macho man of the industry, right? The I-beam guys who walk around, you know, stupid thing where they're all sitting down having lunch on the I-beam. That was my dad's union delegate, like one of the guys whose scholarship I won. So that's where I came from. My brothers are both local 3 electricians and guys who work with their hands, like thick wrists, whereas, you know, I'm more of a cook.
Yeah.
So as I'm going through all this, I get a slot in Brooklyn Union Gas when I'm working for their industrial relations division before I go to law school. And things are moving along the way that I thought they were. And then I was in a cubicle. I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and I found myself having a tough time staying awake. And so by chance, my dad worked for a guy who knew a dude who worked on the floor of the American Stock Exchange, who's a huge Notre Dame fan. I went to Notre Dame.
Okay.
And he was like, if your kid wants to come down, if your friend's kid wants to come down, I'd love to have them come down and like do some, so I said, yeah, let me go down just to see what it's like. And I went down the floor of the American Stock Exchange, smaller, the two that were in New York at the time.
Okay.
American Stock Exchange has since closed down. The New York has swallowed it up. I went down there and I saw all the action. I wasn't part of it, right? Because I was a scared 6'5" giant. But I was like, I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I'm gonna delay law school and just for a semester so I can do this. And when that's when I took the job. And when I got down there, I was like, Mom, I'm not going to law school. Like, this is it. I'm going to be a specialist on the floor of the American Stock Exchange. That's what I was going to be. And I worked for a hard ass named Rick Harvey. We'll probably talk about him a couple of times during this. I'm going to be a specialist. Then I got the opportunity to go to the other side and be a $2 broker on the floor. And then I went from I'm going to be a $2 broker for the rest of my life. I'm going to make some money. And then I went over to the New York Stock Exchange and I worked for a house. I worked for JP Morgan. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then I wound up getting an opportunity to go to Atlanta and trade my own pad upstairs. And I was like, oh, here I am. I'm in Atlanta. That's where I'll be from. Got back to New York and started trading and bouncing around. And it wasn't until I started writing on a whim while I was at Citigroup that people started to see that I had, a personality beyond just friends and people that I worked with. And that's where I started to get a little bit of recognition. A couple of guys at Barstool, including Kevin Clancy, and Dave had liked my stuff. So David offered me a job in 2008, which I politely turned down. I was like a director at Citigroup.
Yeah, right.
Became a managing director at some other fucking shop. And, but then I got laid off in 2018. And before I went back to another shop, Kevin somehow found out that I was laid off. He's like, come on in and, just see how you like doing, some radio, doing a podcast and whatnot. I went in, Dave offered me a job that day. And then that was like 7 years and change. I got a national radio show within a couple of months, with Barstool's platform, Sirius, with a guy who I consider one of my very close friends now, Willie Colon. He won a Super Bowl with the Steelers and he retired as a Jet. He's a Bronx guy too. He lives about a mile from me in Paramus, just by coincidence. And it was the greatest job I ever had. And I've been working since I'm 12. And then it just kind of grew. And then I just started this food podcast and food vertical on the side. And it seems to be doing very well. So it wasn't the traditional road. Like, I don't think I have one of those roads where somebody could be like, hey, by the way, I'd like to do what you do. How'd that work out? I'd be like, all right, well, apply to law school and then become a smut blogger or whatever the hell you know what I mean? So
you're not going to create an online course about
this?
No,
I can't. Yeah, there's no rubric on how to, and I don't know why anyone would want to become me. I'm not saying that by any stretch of imagination, but I am having, like I said, I'm mid-50s. I'm having the time of my life.
That's awesome.
I'm the coolest guy. I'm the coolest dad. I'm the coolest dad in Ridgewood, New Jersey. And I don't think it's particularly close. So, I have that, you know what I mean? My kids and I have a great relationship. I'm lucky enough that my kids are a little bit older. I don't have, my daughter's 15. She's the youngest. And I have a son who's 18 and another son who's 21. And so I didn't have to worry about, you can't go to a play date at that guy's house because his boss had said something wrong. Because Dave can be a very volatile figure to some. It's like the Yankees. You love him or you hate him. There's nothing in between. And so then that's that. I just put myself in a situation, and the only person that I failed to mention in this little background thing is my wife. Like, when I had 2 job offers on the table during my last layoff, and then this random thing at Barstool, which was paying me next to nothing comparatively to what I made on Wall Street. She was like, and I told this story a million times. She had said, well, because I didn't even think I wanted to do it, because it wasn't what Barstool is now. It was right after Chernin had came in and bought a chunk. So it wasn't Joe's House of Blogs. It had like, I don't know, 401ks. Like, it had little things that it didn't have prior probably. So she was like, if we won the lottery, would you go and work for this shop? One of the places that offered me. I said, probably not. If I won the lottery, they wouldn't want me working there, right? And then she's like, what about Barstool? I was like, I'd love to try it for a year. She's like, do it. So if it wasn't, I mentioned a lot of people on the way to get to this point, but if it wasn't for her, I couldn't have done it. You know what I mean by that, right? I mean,
1,000%.
It would be just so much animosity and stuff, but she's extraordinary.
Now, she's from Hohokus. She grew up in Hohokus?
She grew up, I think she Early in her life, I think she was down in Edison for a while, but
yeah.
her formative years were in Hohokus. She spent most of her time going to school in Hohokus, from grammar school, middle school, and high school.
Okay.
And it's a lovely place. It's the only town in New Jersey that has 2 hyphens.
Yeah.
The only town in the United States that has 2 hyphens.
Oh my God. So I laugh because my uncle lives in Hohokus.
Okay.
And you don't hear about a lot of people from
You
there.
don't, yeah.
You don't, right?
Yeah. You
So
can't send a Christmas card. A lot of times they think you're screwing around. Like Hohokus. Sometimes it doesn't get there, which is strange. But
I was like, when I heard you say that once, I was like, oh shit, I wonder where she lives, because Uncle Joe lives up there, and you don't hear a lot of people from there.
No. And funny enough, so like I said, growing up in South Brooklyn, for people who don't know South Brooklyn, most people know where Coney Island is.
Yeah.
And then next to Coney Island is Sheepshead Bay. And then next to Sheepshead Bay is a little small Irish neighborhood called Gerritsen Beach. Not as Irish anymore. And so I grew up in Gerritsen Beach, and her mom and dad grew up in Sheepshead Bay.
Okay.
So I have like a real history other than working for her father, because I was sleeping with the boss's daughter at one point, which is kind of cool, right? You want a high five on that?
High five,
Yeah,
high five.
So her dad and her mom and I and her relatives have so much in common, and so does she, from going to so many family things.
Sure.
Probably walking distance from where I lived.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I believe in fate or destiny.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
But she ran me down, and she put the
she put the
handcuffs on me, and here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a funny as hell Ridgewood story. So when I was coming out of college, it was 2001. I didn't have a job lined up.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was hiring at the time. It was right after 9/11. So my Uncle Joe, who had some clout over there at Hackensack Medical Center, said, why don't you come up here and I'll get you a job at the hospital. And you're on your own at that point. You got to work. You got to work your way up. You know. So I got the job, and I needed, like, they were like, when can you start? And I'm like, well, like a month. And they're like, no, can you start like Monday?
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck, like, where am I living? I'm not commuting from the Poconos. My father was living out in the Poconos.
Okay.
So I ain't like driving that every fucking day.
Right.
So I find this fucking apartment in Ridgewood, right by the New York Sports Club. If you remember where the New York Sports Club is.
Mm-hmm.
So I find this apartment. It was
the other side of the church, kind of.
Correct.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. So it was a big house. These Lebanese people lived in it. They were renting out their basement. It was like $750 a month. I mean, when I bought my TV large, the TV barely fit in the fucking apartment. It was that time, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't there 2 weeks. I go out I was at the office. That's where the hangout was at the time. I get fucking hammered.
Oh, the office in town. Yeah. Very popular. It still is.
I can't believe
rebrand.
I can't believe it's still there.
Yeah.
I come fucking hobbling home one day, and I'm like, I'm hungry. So I start working on the grill, on the fucking stove, and I fucking pass out.
Oh.
And I smoke out. I almost burned the fucking house down. Week 2. Week fucking 2.
Yeah. It's that security
But we called it the fucking Mint Mansion because it was the size of a fucking closet, and every single window was bare, no windows. There's no fucking windows, and it was all mint. Like the painting on the
mint
wall.
Green, yeah.
So we called it the Mint Mansion.
That's a choice.
And it was it was a shit show. But man, I fucking love that town.
Yeah. So when we first got married, my wife and I have been married, I think, 27 years this year. So when we first got married, we lived in Brooklyn. We lived in Bay Ridge. I had an apartment above 101, which was in a popular Italian joint on 101st Street and 4th Avenue. 4th Avenue? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And her being from Hohokus, but knowing about Brooklyn, if she would come over to the place, like, she'd hang out on the fire escape and just watch.
Oh, I bet.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like, because there was a Russian gangster place across the street where they'd be able to park their Bentleys in front of fire hydrants. Cops wouldn't do anything,
problem.
And then there was a heavy Italian thing with, like, really done up to the nine Brooklyn Italian, which I love.
Yeah.
I absolutely love. So if at any point it makes it seem like I'm making fun of any type, I'm not. I respect it and I love it. But, like, the girls coming out, they're all, like, pushed up. I had English bulldogs at the time. I used to try and walk them around that time. Oh, your dog's so cute, Benmo. But my wife used to stay out on, like, the fire escape and watch the Italians fight at like 2:00 in the morning. Like, get in the fucking car, Tony. Like that type of stuff.
Yeah, the Bronx Tale.
We would have stayed in Brooklyn, and we wound up buying a place right next to Severian High School on Shore Road, a co-op. Mm-hmm. And we would have stayed there, but it just priced us out because we wanted to have kids. Yeah. So we came back to where she kind of knew stuff, you know,
Okay.
like it was some familiarity. So we came to Ridgewood. Culture shock a little bit for me. We had a pretty good time. I can tell you that I'm not suited for Ridgewood.
Me either.
Yeah, yeah. It's you know, and I see with my kids and whatnot, and it's just different.
Yeah.
It's, to be honest with you, it's not my scene. So it's like I have a couple of guys that I love there, and I see them at games and all that stuff. But for the most part, you see people and you just wish they weren't there. And I'm sure it's reciprocal, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't care, right?
Right,
and I
right,
don't believe they care either.
No.
But it's not, and it's gotten so big to where I have like traffic now in Ridgewood. I'm like, why did I move out of Bay Ridge?
Right.
You know, but but that's like in New Jersey, you go in, and my brother lives in Cranford.
Okay.
And a lot of people in Cranford, when they want a big night out, they use Westfield.
Yeah.
I live in Ridgewood. When a lot of people in like Glen Rock or Hohokus want a bigger night out, they come to Ridgewood.
Mm-hmm.
Like I happen to be in one of those anchor towns.
Yep.
Summit, I think, is another one. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Red Bank, I think, sometimes when you go down, just because they have a little bit more nightlife.
Yeah.
So that was a benefit to me to see people around.
Yeah.
I think Ridgewood's getting a little too big.
Too busy.
Yeah, it's starting to lose that small town charm.
Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah. I haven't been over there in a minute, but we like Roots over there. Roots is pretty
they're
solid.
good people.
Yeah.
I like those popovers.
Oh,
so I'm a
I could
sucker
eat
for
fucking
popovers.
10 of those.
Yeah, very light. They do a nice.
Easy.
I did so now the Sunday roasts are coming back.
Okay.
Sunday roasts. I spent a little bit of time in London when I'm working with DAZN for boxing, and so I had a couple of Sunday roasts over there. I hadn't had them since I was a kid, and so to find out that we have popovers in because they were based around those popovers.
Yeah.
And the batter into the hot oil, and then it blossoms out like a deformed cupcake, and they pour the gravy.
Dude, it's
I
so
get excited
it's
about
so
it.
fucking
Yeah,
good.
I get excited.
I was just in London around Thanksgiving last year, and first time actually in the city, finagling around, and we stayed in a town called Marylebone.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the outskirts, right?
I know a great restaurant, Marylebone.
Oh my fucking God, where'd you go?
Lorelei de Venise L'Entrecôte, which also has a Marylebone, Paris, New York City. They do one dish. We can talk about that too. Like when we talk about restaurants, I just spent some time with Salt Tank a couple of weeks ago, and it's the most viral sandwich in New York City right now.
I saw.
And the guy has the one sandwich, and it takes a lot of balls to have a restaurant where it's like one sandwich. Well, I'm going to bring a vegetarian with me. Alrighty, she can have some bread. Like, like this guy,
right.
And that's not his words; those are mine.
Yeah.
And then Lorelei de Venise just does steak frites, and so they bring it out to you. They give you half of your steak sliced with steak frite sauce and your frites. They leave the other half on a candle on a plate. So when you're done, they come in, they redo your frites, and they put your steak out. And there's nothing else on the menu except for an overdressed salad to begin with. When they come over to take your order, it's not like the macaroni grill where somebody named Mindy asks you if you want the house Chianti.
Right.
But they come over, all you do is tell them, I want it rare, blue, rare, or medium. They don't do any in-betweens,
No.
medium rare plus. They don't do any of that shit.
Yep.
And they don't do well done, obviously.
Yep.
And it's a wonderful, wonderful place.
I just love
Go to one in the city.
The neighborhood reminded me of fucking Ridgewood.
A little bit, yeah.
Right? It did. But one thing about the scene, and we're going so off track here, but I don't give a shit. I love it.
Good.
I thought that London didn't do as much as this area does as far as like restaurants and all of that stuff, like the food and all that, but they did it well. They did it better. I don't know. The restaurants I went to, they were less dramatic, but like they hit all the points and they hit them really fucking well. And that was the best way to describe, because they were like, even my father was like, and he's not a big foodie or anything, but he was like, God, you're going to London? Like the food sucks over there. And I'm like, no, it doesn't.
It's a huge misconception.
Yes.
I mean, I would tell you, I'd seen somebody say that they're lactose intolerant only in the United States. And I think it's something, if you guys are listening to this on any kind of audio platform, you can't appreciate how disgusting I am, right? Like I'm a glandular man, so I'm not giving anyone any health advice. But the shit that we put in our food here in the United States versus what's banned in other countries is crazy.
I know.
And so to your point, there's not as much viral, let's put a whole leg of lamb on top of a pound of potato type. The food is cleaner. It's a little less it's it's a little less photogenic sometimes.
Yeah.
But I had the best Chinese meal of my life. Best Chinese food I ever had was in London. I sat down with this guy, John Fisher. He's a big man. He goes, Bosh. And he goes like viral for that, or his Chinese food orders. So I was over there and I did some content with him where we sat down at his place, the Blue Orchid, and the guy who owns it, Stingray, comes out. And I had the freshest fish and just, they did it so goddamn well. And I thought to myself, how myopic am I to think that you can only get good stuff in New York?
Right.
That's Chinese food.
Right.
I had great Italian food in Frankfurt, Germany when I was over there. And you can almost see Italy from the restaurant.
Yeah, right,
and I was like, oh, this is better in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like we get so goddamn spoiled here.
Yeah.
And I see it, you know, but even outside of this area, I'm finding, you know, how spoiled we are. I did a piece of content where I just commented on how many pizzas you should order for a group of guys who are coming over for a game. And I said, you budget a half a pizza per guy, round it up if it's odd, and then throw in another pie for the boys.
Right.
And everyone loved my math, but they had a problem with the fact that if I'm ordering 5 pizzas, I do at least 2, maybe 3 plain, and then a couple of toppings. And the whole Midwest lit up. Oh, you don't put toppings on your pizza. That's ridiculous. But I remember they have cardboard and ketchup over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I would put toppings on that shit, right? But good pizza doesn't need fucking toppings.
No, not at all. Not at all. Before I forget, dude, I cannot wake up anymore without going outside on my deck with my cup of coffee and looking where the fucking bubbles lay.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Cowboy fucking Cook, man. He was a pisser.
Cowboy Kent Rollins, he came in and they were like, do you want him? When we first started, Ian and I was booking everything that we do. I source all the restaurants and all that stuff. That's all on me. And by the way, Ian, I mean, you know, the man behind the curtain. Yeah. I mean, you know, gentleman who just left here. He's pushing all the buttons. If it wasn't for him, this thing is shot on a potato. You know what I mean? And so I give him all the credit in the world. And Barstool had just kind of got on board with booking guests for me.
Okay.
Barstool's like a wait and see thing.
Okay.
You have an idea, it's unless you're one of the mega people there, which makes sense. And once you start to pick up some traction, then you get more resources. And so the people who book our talent for Barstool proper, they get huge names. Barstool, Chicks in the Office and all those guys, they get some huge names. So it's like, you know, like Mark Wahlberg walks by and then The Rock comes in and there's A-Rod and all that stuff. So I'm not privy to those guys yet.
Okay.
But every now and again, especially there's Jordan and Sage who are in New York, they'll see somebody who is viral. I don't know them. Like I didn't know Cowboy Kent Rollins.
Nope.
He's got like 7 or 8 million followers across all platforms. I didn't know
he was that big.
Huge.
Yeah, I didn't know he was that big.
And he's this kind of, and I say this as respectfully as possible, he's a shit kicker from Alabama, from Oklahoma.
Yep.
Takes you 22 miles in a covered wagon into like
the elk hunt.
Yeah, where there's no maps, and then he's just a cookie. Like he has his cast iron stuff. I say cookie because that's usually what they call him in cowboy movies.
Yeah.
And he just cooks you 3 hots a day, gets up at 3 o'clock, gets the coffee on.
I was cracking up.
I loved it because he's the anti-me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like some of your comments, I was pissing my pants because I was like, I can't believe you just said that, you know? But he was having a ball. You could tell he was having a ball.
Whenever you have somebody who is a guest, and you know this as much as me, you have to test the waters a little bit. You know? And so we sat down and he was like, what are we going to talk about? And his lovely wife was there with him. And I was like, well, we'll start with a woman's right to choose, then we'll go right into Palestine. And she was like, what? And I was like, no, I'm just fucking with you. We're just going to talk about chili and biscuits. And she's like, all right, thank God. So like, you know, you test the waters a little bit and then how much they're, you know, it comes to you, you know, and by the way, Cowboy Ken Rollins is a God-fearing man. He's a religious man who gives all praise to Jesus and stuff, which I respect 100%. And so I was like, I'm going to try not to curse too much. But at the end of the thing, I was like, you know, like you kind of start to sneak it in. I don't want to do anything. I find that with NASCAR too. You know, I cover NASCAR for Barstool. Rubbing is Racing is my weekly NASCAR show. You Got to Try This is my weekly food podcast. And then Twisted History is my baby. We do that once a month, and it's a history podcast. It's very irreverent and inappropriate. And with NASCAR, speaking to these drivers, before the cameras start rolling, you can joke around with them and stuff. Once the cameras are on, they're NASCARs. They essentially have all their sponsors on their golf shirt and on their thing, and it's tough to get anything out of them, and they're very nice guys, and, and it's awesome, but they're always there right on time. They're, because I also cover boxing.
Yeah.
And that's a different thing. Like, I can go in boxing where I'm like, are you sure you want me to say this? Are you sure that you want me to, say this guy? And they're like, yeah. And they show up a half hour late and a bottle of, champagne in bed and boxer shorts.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm lucky enough that I've interviewed just about everybody across the board, and you get to know how far you can push it a little bit.
So you had mentioned in a show, I forget which one it was, that like the Taffer episode the John Taffer episode kind of went viral.
Yes.
And that one clip, I think 1,000 of those fucking shares went to my DMs. Easy. Like, I got that in my DM, like clients, friends, family forwarded me that clip.
Okay.
Like thousands of people.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, yes. He taught me this because I've been following Taffer.
Have you? Okay.
Holy shit, for like years.
Yeah.
10, 12 years ago. And I was like, yeah, he taught me the fucking red napkin thing.
Yes.
I don't want to steal it, so I use printed cards instead. Right. And they were like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm like, yeah, it's been around for fucking a decade.
Right.
And I've been using it with clients forever. And they were like, I felt like they were sending it to me like it was this new idea for me to try. And I was like, no, dude, Taffer's an OG.
It's the oldest one. I mean, it might be the oldest trick in the book, but I can tell you, I've had feedback on that clip where people say they go to a place for the first time and the owner comes out and they're like, I didn't get the napkin. Like, now they almost expect it. Like, they think that it's such a good idea, and it's something. We had Eric from Talercio's, the guys down in Red Bank. They do those crazy sandwiches.
Yes.
And Eric has got a very good sense of humor as far as wanting to do content and stuff.
Yeah.
His dad, maybe even before his dad, had opened up the place, and then he's needed something to kind of keep it going. And you need some virality in this day and age.
Yeah.
So their thing, and I might have mentioned this to Taffer, is their fried ravioli. If it's your first time there, ring the bell, you get a fried ravioli. It almost guarantees somebody comes back a second time.
Yeah.
And their thought process, and Taffer had confirmed this with his exhaustive research. I think if you go to a restaurant, you have a good to very good experience, there's a 20 to 25% chance you're going to go back. And then it gets slightly higher.
Yeah, like 3% higher.
Yeah, on the second time that you go and you have that same good to very good experience. But if you get somebody in a third time, that percentage increases exponentially.
Yes.
Into like the 60s.
Yeah, it was 72.
Yeah. So you go to, I thought he fudged those. So you go to that and it's, so I like now seeing in real time when I'm going to restaurants, what people are doing to get that third visit.
Yeah. You never market for one, you always market for three.
Right, yeah.
And that has been sort of my go-to, because the money's not in the fucking pretty videos. You see these restaurants that, and I'm not knocking the production that goes into those videos. We create those videos too, and in my agency, but they're not the end all be all. They're not the catch all that's going to bring in the thousands and millions of dollars per year. It's the follow up. It's the repeat business. It's getting them back 3-4 times and seeing that check average go through the roof. That's where you make the money. So that's where it kind of helped them figure that out, because when I say marketing to restaurant owners, sometimes they're like, oh yeah, we got a guy who comes in twice a week and shoots videos. Yeah. That's not fucking marketing.
I know. And there's such a fine line for the consumer who's spending money that they don't have anymore on meals. Yeah. It's such a fine line for them to be marketed to or feel like they're trying to be deceived.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like I think people are becoming more cunning in how they go and market you to come back, like we're saying with the napkin and the fried ravioli and stuff. But sometimes it's a little bit more insulting. Yeah. And so there is a fine line to that, because that can be a turnoff too. Yeah. I hate being jammed. I hate when people jam their stuff down my throat. And this is a guy who puts out a lot of clips. Yeah. So I mean, a little bit hypocritical, but I'm talking about from some place that I'm going to go and buy from, even if I like the place. So there is a real fine line between creating a customer for life or having a guy just get turned off. Yeah.
Let me ask you this then. So what separates a place that's good once from a place that you want to go back to over and over and over again?
I almost immediately know whether or not a place is going to be good now. And listen, I was on Wall Street for 25 years, as we had said. And most of those years was with a corporate card. And most of those years were entertaining clients. So I was out 2 to 3 times a week, which doesn't sound Herculean to most people who are listening to this. But I tell you, go out with customers 3 times a week, just for 2 months straight.
Yeah.
And then do it for 15 years straight. And then come back to me and tell me that it's not fucking difficult. And it got to the point where it was such a rinse and repeat. And Wall Street doesn't do it as much anymore. Like when I had left Wall Street and I was laid off, I'm talking like I left it. I'm done with you guys. When I left Wall Street, the worm started to turn, and people were more like, "Hey, you want to do a CrossFit class with me?" And I'm like, "Hey, I do not." So it has. But back when I started, graduation went down to like 93. So we're looking at like mid to late 90s.
Okay,
it's a lot of entertainment.
Yeah,
some of it was legal.
Yeah,
and so that type of stuff, it gave me like a pretty big palette as far as that's concerned. Because again, my mom and dad are from Ireland.
Sure.
So my mom didn't take a lot of chances. What she made was always great. And she had a lot of Italian friends that grew up. So we'd always get those orange Tupperwares with like a stuffed artichoke in them. So like, even as a kid, I got to see the finer things as far as that's concerned. So I've gotten to the point now where, you get so old, you just kind of know what you're going to get when you walk into some of the places.
Yeah.
And so I know immediately whether or not I'm going to come back, except I have to try 2 places a week now. So it's very.
Thank God you're 6'5".
It's very tough for me.
Because you would be fucking like if I had your job, I
Yeah.
would be as wide as I am fucking tall.
I didn't stop. I slowed down on my drinking precipitously about 3 years ago. When we got done doing Barstool Breakfast, the morning show, Willie and I would do Gentlemen's Fridays on every Friday where we would get just waffled on air. And people loved it because they would say, we're driving to work and we feel like we're at a little party with you. We wish we could be opening up another bottle of wine. We wish we could be eating this stuff. Yeah. And we had a great time. But Willie and I both, I think 327 at some point, and I was watching the NFL draft, and most of the offensive linemen were like 326. I was like, "Fuck!" And even Willie, I see him every now and again. I had seen him after 6 months, and he looks great. And he was like, "You look great." I was like, "You look great." I was like, "Were we killing each other?" He's like, "We were killing each other." So I think like having a little bit of a mindset on it. And I don't know if people know, but most of the influencers don't eat everything that's on the plate.
No.
It would be impossible.
Yeah, dude.
And sometimes you don't eat everything on a plate because you do more than one place in a day.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to go and load up on salt tanks and do the whole prime rib, I ate 2 of them that day. That's big, and they're big sandwiches. If I wanted to stop by and all of a sudden do the viral whatever, I can't because I'll kill myself.
Exactly.
So.
I want to get into hype versus substance when it comes to food creators.
Yeah.
What are these food creators nowadays getting wrong when they talk about restaurants on social media?
So by food creators, what do you mean?
Well, I'm going to target the influencers right now because they're getting a lot of grief, in my opinion. Some are way better than others. I've had a handful on my show, but I also have clients that are like, I don't want them in my restaurant. They have no fucking credibility whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they have no right to talk about my food.
Right.
So I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, especially in the marketing world, because I'm like, well, some of these guys could really help you with awareness, but some of them are full of shit. So, Bobby Flay does it best. He has that podcast, Bobby on the Beat. And he had I don't know, about a half a dozen episodes where he was calling out these influencers, bringing them on the show and fucking ringing them on questions about food.
Right.
And like, they would get maybe like a 40% or 50%. Some are better than others.
Right.
But it was this point of saying, you got a lot to learn, pal. Or, no, you're pretty knowledgeable about food and you're pretty knowledgeable about the industry. So I'm going to take your say a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Seriously?
Seriously. Yeah. So, that's where I want to get your take, because you go into these restaurants and I don't get like the influencer vibe from you.
Right.
Just from the fucking words that you use and the way that you kind of articulate everything that's in front of you. You can tell this is not a guy that is like doing this for $500.
Right. And that's the whole thing too. Just like everything else in this world, we ruin things. right? And I get DMs, multiple DMs every day that I never open, where people are offering me free meals and money to go to their places. I just don't take it. And a lot of the places are very similar to each other. So I think they have the same agent or whatnot that throws out this blanket type thing. So that's one thing that I don't do. And I think that keeps my, I don't know, believability or whatever we want to call it, on the up and up to a degree. Another thing is that probably 15% of the places that I try are awful. And so I don't put them out.
Yeah.
Because I work for a guy who's the Rosetta Stone of what we're doing, Dave, with his pizza things. And you can tell that Dave has gotten a little bit kinder as he gets older and he's getting into this. And, he really did, like with the small business fund that he did, where he raised, $50-60 million to help small businesses during the pandemic, it did show a real softer side of him.
Yeah.
And, adopting the dogs, Miss Peaches, who has 10 times the amount of followers that I do. And I'm very mad at that. So Dave has sort of softened up on a lot of his pizza reviews. So, or at least he's chosen better places. So you don't see him throw a lot of 5s around.
Yeah.
Because I had heard about people who've gotten 5s and 6s
go out of business.
And go out of business. And that's not the Dragon Pizza that asked him to get off his porch and this is a 0.0.
Right.
It's nothing like that at all. So with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm lucky because I don't have great power, but I do take a certain degree of responsibility because if I were to say something negative and somebody wasn't able to feed their kid that week, and I'm just doing this trying to find. So the name of my stuff is You Gotta Try This.
Yeah.
So I only talk about places on the podcast. I open up a little more and I'll complain about bad services and even talk about places if they're bigger and they don't give me good service. But otherwise, I just stick to things that you got to try.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I could be equally as impactful, maybe even more so, if it was you don't have to try this. And go around to places because there are so many. I would say the majority of places are shitty.
Yeah.
For where I am now.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that helps me out. I think my age helps out a little bit. So, sometimes when you see a 22-year-old girl talking about, I try to cockle for the first time, like that type of stuff is cool, but I was picking them with toothpicks, since I was 8, So I think there's a certain degree of like I have a trusting way about me because I'm a father of 3. You know what I mean? I'm not doing this for the gram. I don't look good. So they know that all I have is food. So I think that does lend to some of it. And to your question, how do I feel about these guys? It's absolutely hit or miss. And for people who take their like if they see a random person that they never saw before in their life say that you should come to this place, you go there and it's not good, that's on you, man.
Right.
Like if you don't at least go to their page and see what this person had done in the past and see whether or not they're bought and paid for. Like there was people that I followed that became bought and paid for. And I just stopped not following them, but I just stopped taking them as gospel.
Yeah.
And there are certain places that you almost have to do now as a food influencer. Salt Tanks is one of them.
Yeah.
Like getting the opportunity to go into Salt Tanks and, they invited us in and then we went to some TikTok Food Network. They each have their hot lists, whatever they're called. So any of the overlap on their hot lists, those overlap guys all got little highlights at this test kitchen where they all put on little, I didn't listen to a single word of it. I just went around and ate and I left, but so it's a huge industry now.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people are getting paid a lot of money on their clicks, which is big. I don't, right? Because I do most of my stuff on a brand page, which obviously Barstool owns. I don't own it. So the stuff that I do that you get paid, every now and again, I'd be like, oh, I get $80 or something. Like I have 3 kids, 2 of them are in college right now. It's not moving my needle. But I do now that I have some sponsorship and whatnot, I do get to hand in the receipts.
Oh, nice.
So for the first year of doing this, I'm eating everything literally, so it's become a little bit more enjoyable knowing that as long as I can't hand in it's a lonely life because I can't take out a table for 4,
right,
and then hand in a receipt and say, no, I did that veal parm.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
But what happened to 6, espresso martinis? So, and the thing is too, is that I'm always trying to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want this to become a chore where, where I have to check a box.
Right.
People come over to me all the time. They say, hey, my cousin opened up a place. Can you go by there? I'm like, absolutely, I can.
Yeah.
Is it good? Guy be like, well, they're on the feed. I'm like, then I can't. Or I'll go there and I'll be like, I can't put it out. I'll tell people, I just can't put this out. It's not very good. And my tastes are different than everybody else. Sometimes when I go there, it might be a good day. You might go on a bad day. Like there's all these factors that are beyond my control that, it's not I'm complaining about it. It's the best thing in the world, but it's just everything that I have to take into account when I'm telling people that you got to try this. I don't want them spending money on something I don't think I would eat.
Yeah, that's like me with 1-star, 2-star, 3-star reviews. I only leave 5-star reviews,
right?
Because I understand the importance of, or the impact, I should say, of what those reviews do to restaurants and their rating and that. I will create a podcast episode about it and leave the restaurant's name out of it and talk about what maybe not to do and highlight that stuff. And that stuff seems to get a lot of traction. I'll be like, I was at a restaurant this weekend and XYZ happened, and I was blown away that they didn't the foundational stuff that they didn't hammer out of the park, So, but let's talk. So again, New York guy, now you're in Jersey. I want to talk about sort of the comparison a little bit. So what do you think Jersey deserves more credit for when it comes to food? Versus New York.
New York.
Yeah.
I mean, so people kind of take for granted that we're in the Garden State. And it wasn't until I did the Twisted History in New Jersey that I find out just how much we're supplying the rest of the country from as far as a produce level. Because when most people think of New Jersey, they think of that one part right after you get over the Goethals and you see all that steam pumping up, but when you think you hope it's steam, while Newark is, the planes are coming through and it's like the beginning of The Sopranos. But once you get out and about and you see just how many, I think we'd make a lot of cranberries here, blueberries, Jersey tomatoes and whatnot.
Yeah.
There really is like a separate subculture in New Jersey that is it's distinct from New York. It has less of an edge. It certainly has less of an edge, but it's one that it has less of an edge until you call it Taylor ham to somebody from South Jersey. You want to piss people off? Say that there's a restaurant in Long Island, and I do it for. This is a little tip. I do it for engagement. I will never say that there's a restaurant on Long Island that I want to try. I had said there's 2 restaurants in Long Island that I want to try. Thousands of people. It's on Long Island, you mouth breather. You know what I mean? The whole deal. So there are little triggers.
I would have never thought. I never heard of that
in Long Island. Yeah. I went to visit the Eiffel Tower on Paris. Nobody ever says that, right? You know what I mean? But it's on Long Island. And I totally get it. And I know about it. And I'm using you for... because that gets me in the algo.
Absolutely.
Right? And it pushes it around. I'm a whore for the algo.
You get it. You get it.
So I think with New Jersey, it has a definitive Italian feel to it.
Okay.
I think New Jersey, and coming from Brooklyn, I've grew up with a place that had a definitive Italian feel to it. Going to school on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, it did not have an Italian feel to it. I think New Jersey doesn't have... And people are going to come at me saying, no, there's so many multicultural places in New Jersey. It absolutely does. But in comparison to New York, it doesn't seem as diverse, right? So New York has that hands down. Speaking to Zimmern, I'll bring up Andrew Zimmern a couple of times during this podcast. When I asked Andrew Zimmern, what's the best food city in the world? There's a guy who visited more countries than I can name, who'd been to 1,000 cities and tried just about everything. And he said, Large, the best food city in the world is New York. And I would say that the second best food city in the world is Queens. He's like, so you're not even you're not scratching the surface. So we have all of that in New York. If you want to go look for it, you have to look deeper in New Jersey. I try to look at places by their depth and their width. Right. And so you have a lot of places like New Jersey that has a wide variety of places that you can go to eat for any cuisine that you may want, but it's not that deep. New York is very wide and very deep.
Yeah.
If you like sub-Saharan, fufu, but you can go to 10 different places. I might find 1 or 2 here in New Jersey. You know what I mean? So New Jersey doesn't, that's why I'm saying it doesn't have that multicultural feel that I grew up with, in the Lower East Side and in Brooklyn. I find it to be so because I'm coming from the city, I find it to be more country to me. I had this guy, Matt Groark, on, the meat teacher, and Matt Groark came on to my podcast and he looks like he came from North Carolina. And he's a barbecue specialist. He's somewhere in New Jersey. Somewhere, I have no fucking clue where he is, maybe the Pine Barrens or something. And he teaches culinary in a high school. He became viral like you read about. And he's just a nice guy, but he seems kind of countryish.
Okay.
Came in, with the trucker hat on and stuff like that. That's not Jersey. That's not we pump fists, no gas. That's
right.
So you have that. I think that there is like a nice, quaint feel to New Jersey that I haven't felt in New York. And I love it. I do. I love it so much. And I also love the pride. I do love the pride that people have in saying that there is no central Jersey.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. Everything has a center. Mine is right around here. Like, you know what I mean? But as far as they're concerned, there is no central Jersey. I love that shit.
Yeah.
I do. I really do love that shit. I love how we kind of blend in with Philly once you start to get, near Trenton and about to go over the bridge and stuff. New Jersey has got a tremendous amount of influence from a couple of different towns, the biggest ones obviously being New York City and Philly, and it's tough to find that in other places.
Yeah.
So New Jersey is a little bit of a unicorn. I'm having a good experience here.
Yeah.
I still tell people I'm from Brooklyn, though. Like, when am I I've been living in New Jersey now for 25 years.
I don't think that'll ever go away.
It probably won't, right?
No. Because when I'm outside of Jersey, I mean, I don't have to say 3 words until they figure out where I'm from, right? But I carry that with me too, so I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. You're proud. Like you're definitely proud. I mean, you should be.
And where I am in Brooklyn, like I said, the southern part of it is different than people who are like, "Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. I've been living, in Dumbo for the past 6 months." I'm like, "Did you ever chip in for batteries and carry a brush in your fucking pocket?
Right.
You're not really from Brooklyn. You just happen to live there now."
Right.
But they couldn't wait to say that they're no longer from Des Moines. And that's not a dig on Des Moines. I love you. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people are willing to take a different mantle when they go to a place that's cooler.
Yeah.
I just haven't found that yet.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So let's help some restaurant owners out.
Sure.
While they're still watching and listening, hopefully. What separates a restaurant that deserves buzz from one that's just getting a bunch of hype?
I find the restaurants that I like the most and that I would like to give the most buzz to are restaurants that are family owned. Like, I bring up this restaurant quite a bit because my wife and I were regulars there for a long time, and it's Arturo's in Midland Park, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And, Mario, who, is head of house now since his dad Arturo had passed away, does a great job. Marcello, who is also one of the heads of house, who unfortunately passed away, his brother, his mom is there all the time, his lovely wife, Deb, his sons help out, like all that stuff. To me, and when we were going there a lot, they did all those little extra things where you didn't feel like a customer. You kind of felt like that family. So I would come in there, the corner of the bar, the 2 seats would be waiting for Annie and I, and then we'd sit down. At the time, they have different bartenders now, but back then they had these 2 guys, Mike and Harry, and it made the place. Mike now has a place. He just opened a place called Providence, up by one of the ski mountains. I haven't been there yet. Mike and Harry. So as soon as you sit down there, either Mike or Harry would slide you your drink without you ordering it, and then slide you the remote control. And then you just put on whatever you want. Like the World Series could be playing, and if I'm not a baseball fan, I'll find Godfather 2 somewhere. I'll sit down, have my drink, and have some. Like, to me, that can't be faked.
No.
It cannot be, and it can't be copied. And you see it too. Like, if I tell you that I used to go to Rayo's twice a year, and now I don't go to Rayo's quite as often because the table that I used to get, the guy who gave it to me has passed away. How dare he? And somebody's like, "Oh, I've been to the Rayo's in Vegas." I'm like, "Then you haven't been to Rayo's because you can't recreate it."
No.
I've been to Carbone in Miami and I've been to Carbone in Las Vegas, but I don't really feel like I've been to Carbone. I haven't been to Carbone in New York.
Oh, not yet.
Yeah, and I've had great meals in Vegas. I've had great meals in Miami. I'm not putting them down at all.
Yeah.
But there's a certain thing about trying to recreate something that people cannot get right.
Yeah.
Brennan and Carr is a place on Nostrand Avenue in Brooklyn, does the roast beef sandwiches and whatnot, or the Gordula burger, and they've tried to put that in other places. It doesn't work.
No.
They try to do it with Roland Roaster. They do it with Danino's, has a couple of different spots. I know they're doing it with the L&B. There's another L&B pizzeria now over underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, and I hope it works out for them. I really do. Well, there's just something so authentic about going in there, even if the family's not around, but they're keeping the traditions alive.
Yeah.
I think that's special, and you want those places to succeed because you feel like they're going and they're paying for somebody's tuition.
Yeah.
Like I sometimes go in there and I don't know where my money is going. You know what I mean? Like, and money's tight.
Yeah.
Right. And it's only going to get tighter.
Yeah.
So if I go into a place and I kind of know where my money is going, I feel better about it.
Yeah.
So perhaps that's the differentiating thing.
Yeah.
And also, again, I'm part of the problem. This is extremely hypocritical. If there's something viral, I will try it because just 1,000 other people tried it.
Right.
But to be quite honest with you, those places, if you don't go, I really don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But if you want to go and have a very good hot dog, right? There's no reason to not go to Chris's Red Hots in Verona, New Jersey, because the guy behind the hot counter, who I just found out might not be named Chris, but I don't give a shit. Chris behind the counter works just as hard as anybody I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a hot dog. I want to give my money to Chris.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, a guy
I get
took
it.
me behind the counter and they do something where they mix hot pepper relish with mashed potatoes. And then they put it on top of a hot dog. I don't know if that sounds good to you. I don't know if it sounds good to me, but I had to fucking have it. You know what I mean? And the spicy onions hurt twice, like the whole deal. Like those types of places, I want to do better. And so that's when I go in, I try to have conversations with people.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to have a conversation, I'm not saying during rush hour where we're trying to get them out.
Yeah.
Then I don't really want to be there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm looking for a friend as well as a meal sometimes. That's kind of pathetic, but I said it out loud.
All right. Well, what should restaurant owners be obsessing over? We talked about it before a little bit about repeat business, right? So what should they be obsessing over to get stronger repeat business, do you think?
So I'd say that there's a lot of people out there who are restaurant owners in front of house who want to be main characters. Right? They have main character energy.
Yeah.
You know, they come around. I used to go to a place called Acapella right off of Jimmy Bogart Square in downtown Manhattan, just above the Fide. There's a place, Echo, across the street, which is no longer there. And I don't believe Acapella is there anymore. But Tony Fantastico was the guy who you met when you first got in the house.
Character.
And he was the big lapels, the gigantic, the tie knot was as big as his fucking head. You go in at Tony Fantastic, oh, come on, let's go do it. And it worked, right, for Tony. But there's a lot of people who think they're Tony Fantastico. And I wish they would spend less on the giant ties and spend just a little bit more on the veal. Like, you know what I mean? Like that main character energy sometimes is the main character at the end of the day, any restaurant you go to should be what's on the plate. Does the waitress with the big rack sort of bring you in? Maybe. Like if that's your thing. You told me it was before we came on the air. But honestly, if the food doesn't shine through, there's only so many times I go to Twin Peaks without saying, why don't I go someplace else and get a real wing?
The tilted kilt.
Yeah. So I think that's something that people lose track of. Like they want to have a restaurant. I'd much rather have the guy run out from the kitchen.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on? I got a pot on. I'll talk to you guys later. Anything you need, make sure you know. You know, Bellato's does a pretty good job with that.
Yeah.
I was in Emilio's Bellato, and I got to go into the back room. Again, this is a big flex. I apologize. But he just came over and he made it like, and it wasn't because I was large from Barstool, because it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I'm not Dave from Barstool at all.
Yeah.
People say I am Dave's an A-list celebrity. I think I'm like maybe W list, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I know, like more people know me than they know like their bus driver.
Sure.
So that's what it is. So I don't get any kind of special treatment at all.
But
the guy was like, we were talking about food, and at the end he's like, you know, this is our wine. Can you take a bottle of this home?
That's awesome.
And it just makes all the difference in the world without him coming over and you know trying to be that main character.
Yeah.
I hate when people order for the table that aren't at my table. I'm going to come in, especially in Wall Street. They'd see guys like us come in. I'm going to make nice for the table with $500, seafood tower and stuff like that. So I think, you know, there is a way to handle it, and being a little bit pushy or trying to be the celebrity at the table when the dad wants to be that.
Yeah.
You take somebody out. The guy who's bringing somebody out for the date wants to be that.
Right. Yeah.
Make them feel like the main character, and then put the food front and center.
Yeah.
And that's probably a recipe for success.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Let them be the hero, not you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. You been to Belmont yet?
Belmont Tavern?
Yeah.
I spilled more Belmont Tavern than you've had. Are you fucking mind? So they're big Notre Dame fans, and they're big boxing fans. So I fought college, like a boxing college, and I went to Notre Dame.
Okay.
So they were like, give me an 8x10 And I was like, wait a sec. Are you saying you're going to put it up on the wall? They're like, yeah. I was like, Andy, go get anybody. We haven't done it yet.
Oh, that's
but
awesome.
it'd be kind of cool to be on the wall.
Oh, my God. Some couple rapid fire questions, right?
Go.
What's the most overrated food trend right now?
Matcha.
Okay.
Yeah. It's dirt water.
One underrated dish more people should order.
When I see a good stuffed artichoke on a menu and it's not flying off the menu, it kind of angers me. Not a lot of people do them well, but it's like a real hands-on. Yeah. It's not something for a first date because it kind of gets pushed to the side. But I love a good stuffed artichoke, and I don't see enough of them on menus. I'd seen somebody else the other day say that corned beef and cabbage is the worst of the holiday foods, and they just haven't been having good corned beef and cabbage. Yeah. Corned beef and cabbage is an elite meal as far as I'm concerned. And I'll tell you what, when you go to a Jewish deli next time, try the tongue. It doesn't sound good to say, but I've had some tongue sandwiches, including when I was in Katz a couple of weeks ago. I sat down, I ordered my pastrami, tongue, coleslaw, and red pepper. And the guy's like, you order like a 90-year-old Jew, and that's the nicest thing I can say to you. I said, oh, my God, it got me right in the heart. So give tongue a try next time you go to a Jewish deli.
Love it. One restaurant pet peeve that bothers you immediately.
I know you deal with the economics of restaurants probably a lot more than I do, but I went to a restaurant last night, and I hate being on top of people. It just reminds, I hate feeling like I'm eating in an airplane, and I'm a big guy. And sometimes I'm in an airplane. I'm like, just take out one of these seats. Like, just make it like we're not cattle.
Yeah.
I hate being treated like fucking cattle. I hate being in small cars. And you're saying, well, large, you're 6'5", 270. Yeah, no, I get it. But it undoubtedly, how tall are you?
5'7".
So, and sometimes you'll sit down and the people will still be banging into you.
Yeah.
Or you're on top of somebody else. I don't know how many tables you have to take out and how much that hurts your profitability, but I hate hearing somebody else's conversation when I'm sitting down to have one.
Yeah. No. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. One thing that makes you immediately respect a restaurant.
Soft butter.
Soft butter.
Yeah. If you bring out a bread basket and it's ice cubes of butter, like, you know what I mean? You open up the packs and it's, you're ripping apart the bread while you're doing it. But if a restaurant takes the time to make sure that their butter is soft, I think that's a nice touch.
Best meal you recently had?
I'll tell you what's a sneaky good one. Went to PJ Finnegan's in Westwood.
Okay.
And I listen, I am not talking about PJ Finnegan's in a negative light at all, but sometimes Irish bars outside of St. Patrick's Day in general, if they're going to do a corned beef sandwich, it's like they bust out a thing of Thumans or a thing of, and they cut it. In and around St. Patrick's Day, PJ Finnegan's, I don't know if it's year round, so somebody can come in and tell me, please. They do corned beefs because they do a lot of corned beef and cabbage dinners.
Okay.
So instead of a Reuben, they do a red Reuben, and they swap out the sauerkraut for red cabbage. And so a little bit of sweetness as opposed to the bitterness from the sauerkraut, which I don't mind bitterness of sauerkraut. It's just a little bit different. And I had one last night, and I loved it very much.
Crushed it?
Yeah, I've sat down for bigger, more elaborate meals. But if I go to an Irish pub that pours a nice pint of the black stuff and gave me a great Reuben, but they replace the sauerkraut with red cabbage, they're trying. And it's not cold-cut corned beef in there, and everything is toasted perfectly. Those little things, I'm not crazy about their fries. Maybe I don't like their coleslaw, but that little thing makes me want to say, hey, you got to try that.
Speaking of big slaw guy myself.
I love slaw.
I will judge a restaurant by its slaw.
Yeah. I'm a slaw snob. Yeah, me too.
Sure. If it's like just fucking gross, that kills the whole fucking meal.
We were a macaroni salad, slaw, and potato salad at every barbecue I ever had growing up from the delis. And we had our different delis that we would go to. Yeah. We had the best macaroni, best whatever. And so whenever they give you that little ashtray, a lot of people don't mess with it. Give me a relish tray with like some pickled tomatoes, a couple of pickles, and some slaw.
Oh,
Stop it.
Dude. All right, last question because I'm running out of time.
Go.
This one a little bit more serious.
Okay.
If you could sit down for one more meal with someone who helped you shape your life,
okay,
who would it be and why?
So it would be without a doubt my father-in-law. My father-in-law's name is Rick Harvey, and he died on 9/11. He unfortunately was in Windows of the World, which we used to go to for our Tuesday morning breakfast every week. I was a member of the Blue Sky Club, the eating club up there. And unfortunately, him and a bunch of my wife's relatives and a bunch of people that we both started with in the industry were up there, and they were totally wiped out on 9/11. I write a blog about it that I'm lucky enough they put out every year on 9/11 on Barstool's main page. Rick was the type of guy that would have loved to have sat around a table, particularly with my kids. Didn't get to meet his grandkids. And he was a guy that I would never pick up a bill in Rick's company. I would never pick up a bill. Like, he would be extremely, and he always, you know, he did well in life. He came from nothing. He was a Brooklyn guy, Sheepshead Bay High School dude. He was a hustler. But every penny that he had, he liked to spend on making sure everybody around him was comfortable. So going to a meal with him was something that was always enjoyable. He always took chances, and I miss it immensely. My wife does, obviously, too, because she had lost her father, and my kids do because they only hear stories about this gentleman. So an ideal meal for me would be for him to kind of meet the 3 grandkids and have another meal.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would be great. Yeah.
Large, what a pleasure, dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm wonderful, isn't it?
I had a, I did have a blast. I did. It was everything that I thought it was going to be, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come. I mean, this is a big deal. So, you know, for us, you know, so to get somebody like you on the show, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, happy to do it.
But there you have it, guys. I know you got some value out of today's conversation. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow. Make sure that you share this with somebody in the industry that you think wants to hear something, and we'll get value out of it, of course. All right, guys, I will catch you on the next episode real soon. Have an amazing day. Love you. Talk soon.